Good morning and welcome to the WAVY Digital Desk. We're here with Brett Hall and talk about Super Tuesday, which is tomorrow, March 5th. I don't know if you already voted early. If you did, please leave it in the comments. We want to know those of you that took advantage of that early voting period. Tomorrow, if you don't know, 15 states and one territory will have their primary elections ahead of the presidential election that will take place in 2024. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening today in Virginia and North Carolina, as those are two states a part of Super Tuesday. I'm going to bring Brett Hall on now, and we're going to just chit chat a little bit about, what's happening tomorrow. Brett?
Well, Super Tuesday. So in Virginia, we have a lot of days to vote. Less so in North Carolina, but especially in Virginia, because Super Tuesday tomorrow is just for the presidential primary. You're only going to vote for who you want to be the party's nominee for either Democrats or Republicans this coming November. In North Carolina, for any viewers that are checking us out there, excuse me.
Bless you.
I'm sorry. We go on
live.
television.
It's live, right?
We go on television and I have to sneeze. And yes, I should have done the cough button. And anyway, so North Carolina, we have primaries for governor. We have primaries even for judgeship. So it's a lot more verse. So you're going to want to make sure you are up to date on who is exactly on your ballot before you head there. In Virginia, it's quite simple. Well, actually, let me back up. It's not necessarily quite simple because we've had these ballots because of early voting for a while, and there are a lot of names on both. For the Democrats, Joe Biden, you'll see two other names on there. Clearly, President Joe Biden is the front runner and is expected to win. On the Republican side, there are several names. Many of the names you will recognize of people that have dropped out, like Vivek Ramaswamy, Chris Christie, even just the other day, Ryan Binkley. You probably don't recognize that name, but he has dropped out. It was a Texas pastor. He has dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump. It's only Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, and former President Trump on the Republican side. The North Carolina ballot, of course, you have your gubernatorial races on there. But you mentioned about, Sarah, voting early, and I was just looking at the Virginia Public Access Project this morning, and let me go to the very latest numbers of how many early votes that Virginia recorded for this presidential primary, and it clearly is above and away more than the previous time we did early voting during the COVID pandemic for the presidential primary. But by mail, over 90,000 people have voted by mail for the Democrats' ballot. Much different, less than 40,000 by mail for Republicans. In person, it was flipped. More Republicans voted, but I shouldn't say flipped because the margin nearly not as large, just over 20,000 to just under 10,000 for Democrats. So a lot of ballots already done. Now, these are going to be the party loyalists. Now, in Virginia, as we talked about, Sarah, you can't declare a party. You don't go into a voting booth. You don't declare a party. Anybody can vote for anybody, but you can only choose one ballot. You can only go in and say, I'm going to vote for the Republican ballot or the Democratic ballot. In North Carolina, you do declare a party if you so choose. So if you're a Republican in North Carolina, you have to vote on the Republican ballot. If you're a Democrat, you have to vote on the Republican ballot. But Sarah, this is where it gets interesting. If you are unaffiliated, you are not a Republican or a Democrat, even third party, if you don't have a nominating contest, you can go to vote tomorrow and choose either the Republican or Democratic ballot to weigh in on, which is very interesting because that's kind of like a hybrid closed primary. I know I'm from Maryland, and in Maryland, if you're not registered with a party, you don't vote. That's simple as that. I never voted in, well, I guess I'm here against, as a journalist, I don't believe in declaring a party, so I'll get on that soapbox. But I never voted in a primary in Maryland. So
I think it's, we'll see if it makes a difference, right, for anyone or changes anything in North Carolina. I don't know the numbers, obviously, of who's in that independent sort of unaffiliated bracket, but we'll see what that looks like, I guess, tomorrow. I did want to say just a little bit of details. Virginia opened 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the polls. Anyone standing in line at 7 p.m., they can still vote. And then North Carolina is just 30 minutes pushed back, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. But the open primary state situation, that's going to be interesting tomorrow. And I know that we're going to have to take a look because I think Nikki Haley sort of is probably hoping that some either Democrats jump ship or that some independents sort of vote to go her way. And I don't know, it'll be interesting.
So that is a really interesting thing to bring up, Sarah. So I have actually inquired with several political pundits and experts about this before. In open and primary states, you, in theory, can have what they call shadow campaigns, which there was where Democrats all get together, knowing that Joe Biden is likely going to be their nominee, go in and say, we want Republican ballots, and we are going to vote for Nikki Haley. That is absolutely something that could happen, but it takes a real coordinated effort, as in you and I would not be in the journalism world and not hear about it. And we haven't heard about that. It was a similar, something similar played out last year in the primaries for the Senate races in Virginia, when it became between State Senator Louise Lucas and now former State Senator Lionel Sproul. Republicans knew they weren't going to win this district, even though they had chosen a nominee via caucus, and that was Tony Goodwin. There was talk about getting all Republicans to go to the ballot box and vote for Lionel Sproul. You know, there was an effort to get rid of Louise Lucas. But there wasn't a big concerted effort. There was no big party boss that came out and said, hey, I want you all to do this. Because it's legal.
Right.
It's legal. Maybe a little dirty, maybe not loyalistic, but it's legal. Other parties getting in others' races. But it didn't happen, and as we saw, State Senator Louise Lucas trounced former State Senator Lionel Sproul. So I don't expect, to bring this back to what we deal with tomorrow, I don't expect Nikki Haley to get a groundswell of Democrats coming to support her, especially since she really doesn't have a lot of Democratic policies in her chest. I mean, yes, she was the governor that took down the rebel battle flag from the South Carolina Capitol during her gubernatorialship, but that really is where it ends for Nikki Haley on doing something that would have probably gotten Democrats that vote in primaries on her side.
I was going to say, I mean, even just in the past, couple months, even in New Hampshire, we knew when there was a write-in campaign, to your point, for Joe Biden. So we would know if some, larger plan was taking place. I think that's really interesting. But I guess we'll have to wait and see exactly what tomorrow looks like. But we will at WAVY, we're going to have coverage all day of Super Tuesday. We'll have experts in-house in the evening to sort of talk about what's happening locally, but also nationally. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what takes place across all of these states and with all of these, different delegates. So, I mean...
I'm interested to see the municipality breakdown. I mean, I think it's safe to say Virginia, North Carolina, former President Trump will likely win and carry both of those states. But I think what will be more interesting is to look municipality by municipality. Last night, we know Haley got her first win out of D.C., a very heavy Democrat city where old loyalist Republicans will also likely be, those of the party of Reagan and those who like their Republicans polite, as one pundit said. Will we see that in Northern Virginia? Will we see that in Fairfax County? We likely will not see that in Loudoun County, but could it happen in Virginia Beach? Virginia Beach has been, floating purple. This last election, former Congresswoman Elaine Luria carried the city. Could that happen in Virginia Beach? It's unlikely to happen in Isle County, Surrey, places like that, where the former President Trump will likely get the majority of the votes. So it's really around the metros that I'm interested to see that. And I think locally that will be the number one thing to look, because this is me just from my experience of reporting, I don't foresee us seeing many surprises in North Carolina or Virginia on the presidential front. Now, the local races in North Carolina, maybe, but doubtful on the presidential side.
And then just some details for tomorrow. I link something if you're watching us on WAVY.com, but there's our guide. You can figure out exactly what the acceptable forms of IDs are tomorrow. You can talk about, you can look up, the sample ballots online, see and be educated before you head to the polls. There's also provisional ballots that are available in certain circumstances, but make sure you understand the rules about that. For the most part, most people have already had to register and be able to vote in the election coming up. Is there any other tidbits, from all your experience, just being out there in the morning, Brett, like what do you expect? Do you expect it to be busy tomorrow all day? What are you thinking?
So you're very well read, Sarah, yourself. If our viewers don't know, Sarah's very well read and up on especially the national political scene. There's not a lot of excitement for either of these candidates. Neither President Donald Trump nor President Joe Biden will exceed the excitement level that they both respectively received in 2016 and 2020. It's not going to happen. The country is not excited for this rematch overall. So people that aren't hardcore party loyalists, they're not coming out to vote tomorrow. They're just not going to do it. The only people that are going to come out to vote will likely be those hardcore, but I'm saying from the unaffiliated, those who really want Nikki Haley, who really want to see the former president likely not be there. On the Democrat side, while a lot of Democrats aren't thrilled with President Biden, there's not really a second Democrat Party alternative. I forget, because the one lady, she left. She said she was suspending her campaign, and then she came back in. I can't think of her name right now. She's the author, and I know you're going to say it, and I'll have the tip of my tongue.
I'm double checking our ballot, which everyone should do just to make sure that you have all the
WAVY.com,
information.
voter guide. Yes. Anyway, I don't foresee it large. I don't think there's going to be a line to be found tomorrow.
It's Marianne Williamson.
Marianne Williamson,
yes.
And the third person is former Congressman. Tell me.
Are we talking about
on the
Dean
Democrat?
Is on the ballot?
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, I guess we'll see. It was interesting, though, to your point about if people are excited about this election or not. One of the political scientists that we speak with at WAVY at ODU, he said, this is your last opportunity, really, to vote if you do want it to look any different. So he put the power back to the voters as, this is the day. So if you're feeling that you want it to be a different lineup for the 2024 election, this is really the last opportunity to sort of come out and spread out the wealth of votes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and if there is a groundswell, I mean, it's not, of course, impossible for Nikki Haley to win North Carolina or Virginia, but that would mean a lot of people would have to turn out and defy what polls are saying. This is your chance. This is your chance to do exactly that. If you're upset about a rematch, this is your chance to change that. But I think we should always come with a realistic view that is going to be an upset upon upset if that happens.
And, for anyone that's watching right now, that's going to watch this later, all this information is up on WAVY.com, as well as, a lot of information leading up to this day, conversations and experts. And there will be more on WAVY TV even today with Andy Fox, talking to some experts ahead of Super Tuesday. But, I mean, Brett, is there anything else? I guess, we'll just have to see how tomorrow goes. And then really the eyes are going to be straight on to the general election after tomorrow.
Yeah, it appears to be that way. I think, so obviously the Roy Cooper is term limited for the current time. So he is not running again. It's going to be interesting to see the gubernatorial race, how that shakes out in North Carolina. Most of our region that WAVY TV covers in northeastern North Carolina have a Republican stronghold. So that's probably going to be the likely outcome. And I don't want to sound so glib saying, well, it doesn't really matter, because it's not true. Your vote matters. I'm just trying to give a realistic point of view. When it comes to turnout is usually dismal, and when there's just doesn't seem to be excitement in the air. This isn't like when former President Barack Obama ran against Hillary, the first African American that became president of the United States. There's not that groundswell of excitement. I remember covering in 2016 Trump's run, the unlikely excitement. So, sorry about that call there. But your vote matters. Get out and do it. Get out and exercise your vote. That's bottom line. Even when the odds might not be stacked the way you'd like them, get out and exercise your voice.
I know that I'll be at the polls tomorrow. And, it's important here. We're trying to give you all the information you can to get there and be educated and understand what's going on. If there's any questions particularly about the election day, maybe try to find what your county is, some of those details. Both the North Carolina and the Virginia State Election Board websites, have all the information that you need to figure out where you need to go vote and more information. I just think you have to stay educated as a voter and stay updated on what's happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. It's important.
And then if there's, anything, if you see WAVY at the polls tomorrow, talk to us, tell us how it's going. We want to hear from you and sort of how your process is, going on the day of Super Tuesday. But we'll be with you all day tomorrow. You can head over to our midday show now to get updates on other local news that's happening right now. I know that, the other big update today, just to mention it while we're talking about politics, is that the Supreme Court obviously said that Colorado can't take Trump off the ballot. So that's that's another big headline
In
today.
a unanimous decision where so many people are saying that the Supreme Court's become too political, this was a big statement that it was unanimous with such a polarizing figure as the former president, that it was unanimous that he should be on the ballot. I think people are going to discuss that heavily.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I can't wait to see what it actually, I've not had a chance to read the full thing yet or, hear all the experts. So it'll be interesting to sort of take that out. But thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this election update. Stay tuned with WAVY tomorrow for updates. I don't expect, obviously, that we'll know exactly what the polls are going to say as soon as they close. So, be patient with getting, election results, throughout the evening and then even into the next days, as sort of has happened the last couple elections. So we'll keep you as updated as possible.